refrigerator Perry and just how hard he hit. And my mama told me homecoming games are the best. On the banks of those late fall, late cartwheel sunsets, I wanted to be just like Jeff Davis when I grew up, tackling Seminoles and Bulldogs, playing football in the mud. So everybody sing Tiger Rag at the top of your lungs, and we'll party like it's 1981. Make those Death Valley lights shine brighter. And for good luck, we got Howard's Rock to beat the hell out of them old Gamecocks. It's a damn good day to be a Clemson Tiger. I feel really sorry for our sisters to the south, 'cause they come up here every other year and get punched in the mouth. Oh, and every home Saturday, it gives us the chills to watch those boys in orange run together down that hill. So everybody sing Tiger Rag at the top of your lungs, and we'll party like it's 1981. Make those Death Valley lights shine brighter. And for good luck, we got Howard's Rock to beat the hell out of them old Gamecocks. It's a damn good day to be a Clemson Tiger. Oh, somewhere up in heaven, Gaines Adams makes us sad. And that old Banks McFadden is the best damn running back. So everybody sing Tiger Rag at the top of your lungs, and we'll party like it's 1981. Make those Death Valley lights shine brighter. And for good luck, we got Howard's Rock to beat the hell out of them old Gamecocks. It's a damn good day to be a Clemson Tiger. It's a damn good day to be a Clemson Tiger. Everybody, damn good day to be a Clemson Tiger. Oh yeah.
Good afternoon, everybody. Pigskin Pete here. Happy, what is today? Tuesday. I don't even know what day it is. Happy Tuesday to everybody. I love these Tuesday streams the best, really. I know I do one on Thursday as well, but Tuesday is the day, you know, the first time I come on live after the college football weekend. And, you know, Saturday to Tuesday, that's 3 days is a long time for me to be festering about all kinds of stuff that I'm hearing and seeing all over social media and YouTube. So I come out shot out of a cannon on Tuesdays. And then usually by the end of the Saturday stream, I can't even go on live again for 3 more days because I'm so exhausted. But anyway, we have a lot to talk about today. First of all, there's a handful of really interesting games in college football this weekend. Some of them that aren't even really considered to be good games or interesting, and I'll get into those games too. Obviously, the most notable ones that everybody will be watching this weekend will be Stanford and Notre Dame. And of course, the daddy game of them all this weekend, Penn State and Ohio State. Games like Florida and Mississippi State, even though it's, you know, it's not like a top 10 matchup or anything, but still a very interesting game. I mean, anytime you have a coach that leaves and goes to another school and then comes back to play them, their former school and team, a lot of those guys that Dan Mullen recruited, that's always a good storyline. LSU, who does LSU play? I forget. That looks like a good game too. Anyway, we'll get into all that. First of all, let me see who's in the chat here. Say hello to everybody. 81 Clemson Tiger 16. Good afternoon, sir. Clemson Jacob says the Trevor Lawrence era is here. Prince 6'1", my man. Hey Prince, I'll be giving you a shout out here in a minute because I want to talk about NC State, and obviously we're going to that game together. SEC Dog, good afternoon, sir. I'm sure if you're here, you're amazing and fantastic. Otherwise, you would not be here. He says, have y'all Tater fans seen TJ LSU dad video about Clemson? No, I haven't. I think I subscribed to him, though. I'll check it out. Let me guess. Let me guess what he says. I haven't even seen it, and I can already tell you what he says. He says that Clemson has a weak schedule, right? I'll get in. That's one of the main things I'm going to talk about today while we're on the subject. Prince 6'1" says LSU is going to be sitting at home during the playoffs, bragging about how tough their conference is while Clemson's in the play. Well, exactly. Let's go ahead and start. Hey, what's up, Martin? Martin Dubé, and I hope I'm not butchering your last name, sir. Martin Dubé, for anybody who doesn't know, I think he lives in Africa, if I'm not mistaken, but he's a huge Miami Hurricanes fan. Martin Dubé has been following me and giving me positive comments on my channel since I had like 20 viewers. Since I made a video bashing Miami right around this time last year, right around sometime in October last year. And just that one video alone, I went from like 30 subscribers to like 130 overnight, and they were all Miami fans. And the only reason they subscribed to me was because they wanted to talk trash. But Martin Dubé, good afternoon, sir. He's from Botswana. There you go. All right, so before we get into these games, I just want to vent a little bit. And this is where I piss some people off, and that's fine with me. I mean, I really don't care. That's going to come with the territory here. So, obviously, me being a Clemson fan, I follow a lot of Clemson fans on Twitter and social media and on YouTube. So I see a lot of posts that fans make. And there seems to be the Clemson fans, not all of them. I mean, there's a large majority of them that have all of a sudden become schizophrenic. They're all worried about the wrong things. First of all, there seems to be to me anyway, just from what I'm seeing, a huge divide in what Clemson fans think should be happening with this quarterback situation. But obviously, Trevor Lawrence is now named the starter. I've been saying it for the past 2 weeks. I know Prince 6'1"'s been saying the same thing. There is still a lot of Clemson fans out there that want to see Kelly Bryant to be the starter. And this is the rationale that people are using. Well, we have what now looks like is going to be a very easy schedule throughout the ACC, right? I mean, Florida State's a dumpster fire. A lot of the top teams in the ACC, Virginia Tech, aren't looking as good as they normally do. And so, no matter who we play out of the Coastal Division, if we make it to the ACC championship, they feel like we're just going to run through them. And they say, well, we don't need – Kelly Bryant's earned it. Kelly Bryant's a senior. Kelly Bryant has the Clemson spirit, blah, 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 blah. Trevor Lawrence is a true freshman. Just because he has a great arm doesn't mean he's going to win us games. I don't know what you people have been watching for the past 4 weeks. I mean, maybe you're just watching the highlights of the game. I don't know. But for anybody who's going to get on here and tell me with a straight face that after 4 weeks of watching these two quarterbacks play 50% to 50% pretty much a 50-50 split as far as playing time goes, that Trevor Lawrence is not a 10 times better quarterback than Kelly Bryant, we can't even have a conversation about it. It's pretty much that simple. Yes, we could win the rest of our regular season games and probably win the ACC with Kelly Bryant with no problem. I agree. But what do you want to do? Do you just want to win the ACC, or do you want to make a national championship run with the best defensive line that we've ever had in the history of Clemson? Maybe the overall best wide receiver talent that we've had in the history of Clemson. Maybe overall the deepest running back core that we've had in the history of Clemson at one time. But you just want to have Kelly Bryant go in there because he's a senior. Well, Kelly Bryant's going to be gone next year. For anybody out there who forgot, Kelly Bryant's a senior. He has no more years of eligibility left. So Kelly Bryant's he's going to move on. But all these players that are on this team this year, a lot of the young guys, the freshmen, the sophomores, the juniors, they're still going to be here next year. The coaches, the fans. You don't just give up on the season because you like Kelly Bryant. The other thing I see them freaking out about, and I'm directing this mainly at Clemson fans because that's who I follow, and I'm sure it doesn't reflect the entire fan base. It's just what I seem to see, especially all over Twitter. The ACC sucks this year. We need South Carolina to win all their games so that when we play them, it looks like a good win. Huh? Listen, people, it doesn't matter we could play in the Sun Belt Conference. What other teams do in our conference have zero bearing on where we're going. The only thing Clemson fans need to worry about is what Clemson does this year. They need to handle business. They need to beat all the teams they're supposed to beat, which is everybody on their schedule. That would have been the same whether or not Florida State wasn't a dumpster fire. That would have been the same whether or not Virginia Tech got beat by Old Dominion or not. It doesn't make a difference. They say, oh, well, last year we got beat by Syracuse. We got in the playoff with one loss. We can't afford to have one loss this year. Well, sure we can, and I'll tell you how. And this is what the College Football Playoff Committee has emphasized over and over and over again. They forgive one-loss teams as long as one of two things happens. As long as they're either a one-loss and they win their conference, or their one loss isn't a bad loss. And when I say a bad loss, I don't necessarily mean against a bad team, because obviously Syracuse is a bad team and we lost to them, right? It's how you get beat. The difference between Alabama getting in the playoff last year and Ohio State getting left out, even though, Ohio State did have 2 losses, but it was mainly because Ohio State got blown out. They didn't just lose by a field goal on the road to Iowa. They let Iowa score 55 points on them and beat them by 30 points or 28 points or whatever it was. So, yes, Clemson could still lose a game. Now, Clemson shouldn't lose a game. That would be an embarrassment this year. We have no business losing to anybody. However, while Florida State is a dumpster fire, obviously Virginia Tech, everyone's right. They've made that quarterback change in Miami. And don't think just because of Miami got their brains beat in the first week of the year with no offense that they're just going to go away. I think Miami's still a pretty good team. Miami is probably going to be a top 15 team in my estimation by the time that we go to Charlotte for the ACC championship game. Everyone seems to completely have forgotten about NC State for some reason. Well, I know why. They missed a week of football because of the hurricane. They had to cancel the West Virginia game. Meanwhile, Duke, Syracuse, NC State, and there's still 4 undefeated teams in the ACC. We have to play 2 of them. We have to play NC State, and we have to play Duke. We don't play Duke every year, but we're playing them this year. There's a very, very good chance, and I said this 3 months ago when I went on Uncle Lou's show to preview the Clemson season. I said in that video, we got down to the NC State game, which I think is week 9. Obviously, we have a bye week 7, I think it is. I said there's a very, very good chance that this is the game that defines the ACC Atlantic this year. NC State and Clemson. It's a very good chance that NC State could be a one-loss or even an undefeated team whenever we play that week, which is on October 20th, which I will be at the game, by the way, with Prince 6'1". So I'm looking forward to that. But here's my point. NC State is still a good team until they they pull a Virginia Tech and get beat by an Old Dominion. They have the best quarterback in the conference by a long shot. And I mean, if you take Trevor Lawrence out of the discussion, they have a pretty good defense. They have dynamic wide receivers. They have a great coach, and NC State always plays us tough. Duke's undefeated. Duke has 2 non-conference Power 5 wins on the road so far this year, and they're 4-0. Now, Virginia Tech plays Duke this weekend, and that's a very hard game to pick. I mean, if the game's in Duke, I think Duke should win the game. Here's the difference. Virginia Tech has 10 times more talent on their team than Duke does. Duke has a 10 times better head football coach than Virginia Tech does. But either way, let's put it this way. We played Duke towards the end of the year, and I think we played them in... I'm trying to remember where we play. I think we play them in Duke. I'll have to look at that. But there's a very good chance that Duke could be a one-loss team when we play them at the end of the year. So this thing about the ACC is terrible. We need all these other teams to win to make us look better. No, we don't need that. We just need to play better. We just need to win all of our games like we should. You could put Alabama in the ACC this year. Does that make Alabama any less of a great football team just because of the conference they play in this year? No, it doesn't. As a matter of fact, a lot of the teams that Alabama are playing this year are dumpster fires as well. Good afternoon, Nick Bro. Billy Dawson. How you doing? Bulldog, how you doing, sir? Bulldog says, I'm just saying Clemson might be a little bit overrated as well as the rest of the ACC. Well, maybe. Listen, maybe Clemson's overrated, right? Maybe Georgia's overrated. Maybe Ohio State's overrated. Maybe Penn State's overrated. I mean, the only team that doesn't seem to be, that might not be overrated is probably Alabama right now. So, I mean, you can just throw out a statement like Clemson's overrated. Based on what? Based on the fact that they're 4-0? Based on the fact that they've handily beat everyone they're supposed to beat, and they beat a very good Texas A&M team on the road in Texas A&M? That means they're overrated? I mean, give me some facts here to tell me why they're overrated. Now, if they go out there and lay an egg against Syracuse this weekend, yes, I'll tell you they're overrated. But until then, there's nothing to say that Clemson's overrated. What have you seen that makes you think that? I'll tell you what. Is Georgia overrated? Because I saw Missouri's football team run the ball down their throat for 4 quarters straight on Saturday. And if it wasn't for a couple of defensive touchdowns by Georgia, Missouri might have beat them. So is Georgia overrated? I don't think so. I think Georgia's properly rated. I think Georgia's one of the top 5 teams in the country. But I did see Missouri run down their throat for 4 quarters. Good afternoon, Ryan Rue 7 and 253332. Add another 3 to that, sir. There's not enough 3s in your name. Okay. Anyway, I just went on a 16-minute and 52, 53, 54, 55 second rant. And all that really rant could have been about 10 seconds long. Here's what it comes down to, folks. We react week to week in college football like it's the last game of the year. Everything one team does this week, that means that's who they are for the rest of the year. And then, listen, 3 weeks ago, we were all talking about how Penn State was they went to overtime with Appalachian State at home. Everyone's saying, well, Penn State's overrated. Man, they suck. Everyone was throwing Penn State out the window the first week of the year. All of a sudden, here we are 3 weeks later, and now everyone's talking about Penn State's probably going to go to the playoff this year. I mean, that's how crazy fans get, and how much people overreact. Let's let the season play out. For all the people out there saying Clemson's not playing any ranked teams this year, there's probably a pretty good chance we're still going to play 3 ranked teams this year. NC State will probably definitely be ranked when we play them. Duke will probably definitely be ranked when we play them, and then whoever we play in the ACC championship will most likely be ranked when we play them. So that might be 3 ranked teams right there. And even if there was no ranked teams on the schedule, if you're 12-0 and you win your conference, does it really matter? I mean, Syracuse and Duke could be complete dumpster juice, and we could beat them by 111 points. As long as we win the game, that's all that matters. Okay, so yes, you guys are. Yeah, that's the other one, Martin. I'm not ready to write off Miami yet either. I think I already mentioned that. Or game 1, get them all the first team reps throughout the training camp, and so when they go face LSU week 1, they have a chance to move the ball down the field. Now, obviously, Mark Richt decided not to do that, and we saw how that turned out. I think they made the switch better late than never, I guess. But the guy's clearly a 10 times a better thrower of the football than Rozier was. So we'll see. I mean, a lot of these teams like Miami, even Clemson, are going to get better as the year goes on, not worse. I mean, there's some teams that start off strong and then fizzle out. Some teams start off slow and get better towards the end of the year. You'd rather be the team that gets better towards the end of the year than the other way around. All right, so let's talk about some of these games this weekend. So I will be doing the live stream play-by-play and reaction for obviously the biggest game of the weekend. It's at 7. I think it's at 7:30 p.m. Eastern time on Saturday night. It's going to be Ohio State and Penn State. That's a great game every year, whether or not you're a fan of either team. Whenever it's in Penn State and they have the whiteout, I think Urban Meyer, somebody can type his record in there. I know he's lost a couple there since he's been in Ohio State. Hard place to win. Penn State has a really good offense. Ohio State has a really good offense. I think the edge here really goes to Ohio State just based on the fact that Ohio State has a better defense than Penn State does. But again, the home field advantage at Penn State when they do this whiteout is massive. It's one of the hardest places to play in the country. And I think Ohio State will probably win the game. I think it'll be very close, like a field goal or something like that. But I can't wait for that one. Bulldog says the real question is Oklahoma overrated? Again, no, I don't think Oklahoma's overrated. That's another overreaction. They went to overtime with the Army. Well, listen, does anybody think that Old Dominion is a better team than Virginia Tech? No, of course not. I mean, there's no excuse for that. But what happened was Virginia Tech did not take them seriously. They thought they were just going to walk in there and walk out with a win. And they got caught slipping. I think probably something similar happened at Oklahoma this week. First of all, Army's a tough football team. Obviously, they don't have anywhere near there's not a single player on Army's team that could start for Oklahoma. I mean, that's the talent gap difference between those two schools. But Oklahoma just didn't take them seriously, I don't think. That's what happened. That's why they call them trap games. But it is what it is. I don't think Oklahoma's overrated. I think they had a bad day, and Army had a great day. Yeah, Oklahoma struggled with Iowa State. Hell, they got beat by Iowa State last year. Glad Adabo BYOG Sweetie gave Trevor Lawrence the keys of the car. Now he can take it from the little freshman kid. Yeah, if you're anybody that's playing Clemson this year or potentially playing Clemson this year, especially if you're Miami or anybody else, you probably should not be happy about Trevor Lawrence getting the keys to the Ferrari, because he's got way better driving skills when it comes to Ferrari driving than Kelly Bryant does. Yeah, I agree, Bulldog. Just from what I've seen from all the Georgia games this year, but particularly the one against Missouri. The play calling, I mean, you guys it's like, how many passes has Jake Fromm thrown over 15 yards? Now, I'm not even talking about how many he's completed. I'm talking about how many he's thrown. Not that many. He might have thrown two of them that entire game. That's pretty unbelievable. Because I know Georgia has a really good wide receiver core, and they're not utilizing them at all. Clemson has a future Heisman in Lawrence. This is Martin Dubé saying this. And you have a great incoming 5-star from South Florida. Not surprising. And I agree. So some of the other games this weekend. Oh, well, we're not going to forget about one of the best games in the SEC this week, right? The Boom Chickens versus the Wildcats. Well, first of all, I don't know why I think this, because recent history plus what's going on this year so far would tell you different. Kentucky's actually favored by a point in Vegas to win, and that's how it opened, to win this game. It's in Kentucky. Kentucky's hot right now. They've obviously beat Florida, the first time in 31 years, and then they beat a really good Mississippi State team last week, and now they've got South Carolina coming in there, and I'm not impressed with South Carolina, and I know I'm not the only one. And that's not just me being a Clemson homer and a South Carolina hater. I'm just not impressed with what I'm seeing from South Carolina. They came into the season with high expectations. Hell, they even had me believing they're going to win 10 games. Which, I don't know why I ever believed that. But, I mean, they were so uber confident that they were going to be a 10-win team this year and compete with Georgia for the East that I actually started to believe that crap. Well, after I saw what happened week 2 against Georgia, when Georgia just completely curb stomped and road graded them, I changed my mind and said, yeah, well, this is still South Carolina that we all thought they were. Will Muschamp's still the same Will Muschamp I thought he was since back when he was at Florida. But again, this is a situation where South Carolina is a team right now that I feel like they feel like they have nothing to lose, and nothing's scarier than a team that feels like they have nothing to lose this early in the season, because If they lose the game, it's, oh, they lost again to Kentucky. It's the 5th year in a row. They weren't going to win the East anyway, and they didn't have a shot to win the SEC. But if they win the game, then they're right back in the hunt as far as the East goes even, and not the SEC. That's not happening. But they're right back in the hunt, and they get that monkey off their back. So a team with nothing to lose is a dangerous team. And I think that Kentucky could get caught slipping. They're not used to being 4-0. They're not used to having people saying that they're favored against a better team, a more talented team than they are. And so what you see week in, week out when these teams are they start believing the hype. Nick Saban always talks about it, right? The rat poison. They start believing their own hype, and then they go out there and lay an egg. And that's very possible that Kentucky could lay an egg this week, thinking that they're better than they are. But I can't wait to watch that game. What's up, Comic Dude 45? How you doing? And Strange Days. Good afternoon, sir. Thank you for joining us. So now we've gone over the Ohio State, Penn State. What's the other one I was talking about that was interesting? Oh, Notre Dame and Stanford. This might be the hardest game to figure out. I mean, really, Stanford has been a little bit lucky this year. Yeah, they came from behind last week and beat Oregon, in overtime. I watched that game, and I'm going to tell you something. Oregon outplayed for three quarters and 3/4 of the fourth quarter. Oregon outplayed Stanford the entire game. I mean, they just outclassed them, outplayed them on both sides of the ball. How Oregon found a way to lose that game, I mean, if you're an Oregon fan, you've got to be banging your head into a wall. My point is, I think Oregon's a better team than Stanford. At least that's what I saw. My eyes were telling me the whole game, Oregon is a better team than Stanford is. Stanford had a very poor showing week 1 as well. So they've had really two out of their 4 weeks where they really have been less than impressive. Now, they did win the game against Oregon, so you can't take that away from them. I mean, a win is a win is a win. Notre Dame's sort of very similar. They beat Michigan week 1 in a close game. Then they go out and struggle against Ball State. Then they go and struggle against another no-name team. And then last week they made a quarterback change from Brandon Wimbush to a passing quarterback. You guys seeing the theme that's going on in college football right now? These running quarterbacks, Kelly Bryant, Brandon Wimbush, Jalen Hurts, they're being replaced by guys that can move the ball down the field to win you games. Anyway, Notre Dame changes their quarterback to a guy who can throw the ball, and they absolutely blow out and embarrass Wake Forest, who I thought actually had a shot at beating Notre Dame. And by the way, I think Wake Forest probably had a shot at winning that game if Brandon Wimbush was still the quarterback. That's the difference in the quarterback that changing the quarterback can make. Anyway, so my prediction for the game, I think Notre Dame's going to win the game. They're hard to beat at home. I don't know if they'll cover the spread, though, but that's just one of these games. If I was betting it, which I'm not, I probably wouldn't bet it because I don't trust either team. They're both sort of yo-yo, up and down. The only reason I say Notre Dame is because it's in Notre Dame, and that's a hard place to play. Their fans have a knack for getting so hyped at the beginning of every season that you can't help but second guess the first game whether or not they're serious or not. You must be talking about South Carolina. I mean, at the end of the day, what I've been saying for the entire offseason, I think will end up being true. South Carolina wins 7 or 8 games like they do every year. They're a 7 or 8 win team. Let's face it. That's what they are. That's what they are right now. Now, last year they won 9 games. And so all of a sudden that means this year in their mind they're going to win 10 or 11 games because they won 9 games last year. They're going to continue to go up until they hit 12 wins, I guess. I don't know. But we've seen this. So we've seen this story play out for decades and decades. This is what they are. This is who they are. And Jake Bentley is not the answer. Bring back Greg Schiano. Good afternoon, Sooner Ace. How you doing, sir? Sooner, I was just defending your team, man. People were asking me if I thought Oklahoma was overrated because of the whole thing with Army, and I said no. I don't think that just because Oklahoma had one tough game that they clearly weren't ready for mentally doesn't mean they forgot how to play football all of a sudden. Oklahoma will be there at the end of the year, at least fighting for a playoff spot, I think. Got to get past West Virginia first, though. That's for sure. South Carolina's really missing Hurst this year. Yeah, Hayden Hurst, the tight end, yeah, they're missing him for sure. And it's really a shame and a travesty that he was not used more when he was there. He might have been the best tight end in the entire country last year, and they didn't involve him in the passing game enough. Whenever he did get the ball in his hands, he was electric. After Deebo Samuel got hurt, it should have been the Hayden Hurst show, but it wasn't. It was on like what, Amazon Prime or something. If you have an Amazon Prime account, you could have watched it. That was frustrating. Everyone wanted to watch that Oklahoma game, especially after it was, getting late into the fourth quarter and that game was tied. But it wasn't on TV for most people. Yeah, he was the first tight end off the board in the draft. That's right. Oh, I keep forgetting to do this. This is a good time as any to do this before we talk about another football game. So my sub base is up to over 800 now, and my goal when I started, or shortly after I started doing this channel, was to have 1,000 by the 1 year mark. So I looked back to see exactly when I posted my first video, which I might have taken that first video down. It was so bad. But it was the second week of October. I want to say it was like October 13th or 14th of last year. So what is that? It's like 3 weeks from now. So my goal is still to try to hit 1K at the 1 year mark, which would give us 3 weeks to do that. Obviously, I need your guys' help to do that by liking, subscribing, sharing. The way the YouTube algorithm works, sharing is a big deal to them. If you share it on Facebook or Twitter or whatever, or even on YouTube, you can share contacts in your phone from YouTube. Anyway, I still think it's a lofty goal to get. I think to get 200 more subs in a couple of weeks. I still think I can do it, though, especially now that we're into the heart of the football season, and there's a lot of people out there looking for content like what I'm doing. So that's going to be the goal. If I can reach that goal, if I can reach that 1K, but let's set a date of by October 15th. Let's just round it up from 13 to 15. By October 15th, if I can set that goal of 1,000 subscribers, then I will do something special for either one or more subscribers if I hit that goal. So I'm going to need your guys' help to do that. You see Mike Williams with 2 touchdowns for the Chargers? Yes, Clemson Jacob, I did. And I'm not surprised. He was hurt all last year. But, yeah, I had him on my DraftKings fantasy team this weekend, and he killed it. Dennis Wilson's talking up his quarterback, saying Perry is the new it in the ACC. Everybody's wishing me the best for 1,000. I appreciate that. Joke Bentley says Clemson Tiger 81 Clemson Tigers 16. Dennis Wilson says, I wish Miami played in the Big Ten or the SEC. Why would you wish that, sir? You can't even win the ACC and now all of a sudden you're going to go win the Big Ten or the SEC. Dennis Wilson, I know it's still afternoon, sir. Maybe not. Maybe wait till at least it gets dark outside before you start hitting the sauce. Okay, sir. It's a little bit early for that. Although happy hour has begun at 4 o'clock at most bars. Somebody's talking about the polls. I didn't even really look at the polls this week. The AP poll. I mean, I honestly couldn't care. The AP poll is just for something for people to argue about and say, "Ooh, look, I beat a ranked team." Oh yeah, they were ranked number 25. Yeah, but they were ranked. Yeah, but the 26 teams chop liver, right? I mean, the AP poll is the biggest joke in all of where you're positioned in the college football playoff poll after week 8. And I promise you, it's probably not going to look very much like the AP poll at all. Dennis, I know you're trolling now. He says that Miami's the only big fish in the ACC. Everybody else's little brother to Miami. Yeah, that's why you've been in the ACC for 18 years and you haven't won it yet, because you're the big fish. What are Kentucky's chances of winning the East? Well, let's put it this way. I think Kentucky will definitely beat Tennessee and probably Florida. Well, they already beat Florida. Okay, so they'll definitely beat Tennessee. They've already beat Mississippi State, which is out of the West. If they beat South Carolina this week, I think that they'll beat Vanderbilt and most likely Missouri. So if they get past South Carolina this week, then their chances of winning the East go way up. I mean, they still have to beat Georgia head-to-head, which is the tall task for Kentucky. But at that point, I'd say they have probably – if they beat South Carolina this week, I'd say that at that point, Kentucky will probably have about a 30% chance of winning the East, and Georgia will have about a 70% chance. And that's because I think that Georgia's obviously better than Kentucky, but if it comes down to the head-to-head between those two, then – all Georgia has to do is slip up one time and they don't win the East, which would be a pretty interesting scenario. Now, I'm not a believer that probably, I mean, it's possible that Kentucky could go undefeated in the East, other than Georgia, but I still think it's probably in the cards for them to lose one more game. I don't know. It's hard to believe that Kentucky could win 11 games or something like that. It's not impossible. It's just hard to believe. Good afternoon, Miranda Dansby. How you doing? Stop Snell and game over, says SEC Dog. Yeah, he's a great running back. Yeah, it would be the 5th straight win versus South Carolina. If South Carolina loses to Kentucky this year and then Clemson, they will have lost to both those teams the last 5 years in a row. Dennis Wilson. He says Miami number 4, Michigan number 3. Well, both those aren't happening. Michigan's definitely not making it in the top 4, dude. You must be high. And Miami 4, Michigan 3, Washington 2, and Alabama 1. What in the hell, dude? That's the most effed up Final Four ranking projection I've ever seen. Clemson Tiger, 81 Clemson Tiger 16 says, if you bail me out of jail, I will go streaking across Williams-Brice Stadium with the Gamecock tail feathers glued to my butt. It will make national news, and you can be the first to post it to YouTube. That will get you to 1,000 subscribers. That all sounds great, except for the part where you ask me to bail you out of jail. If you can get somebody else, I can start a GoFundMe for you to get bailed out of jail. Better yet, when you're streaking, you should write on your chest and on your back in big marker, subscribe to Pigskin Pete on YouTube. That way, not only would it be posted on YouTube, but people at the game on TV would see it as well, and that would reach potentially hundreds of thousands of Pigskin Pete viewers. SEC Dog says he thinks South Carolina is going to beat Kentucky. They probably should, but they probably should the past 4 years and didn't. So, what's up, Go 1330? How you doing, sir? Thank you for joining the stream. I'm sure if you're here, you're amazing and fantastic. Otherwise, you would not be here. Go 1330 says, I know this is off topic, but damn, NFL has softening of football with this penalties. Yeah, these. Yeah, they've had like 36 roughing the passer penalties after 3 weeks, which is crazy. And Clay Matthews keeps getting flagged for these hits, and all he's doing is tackling the quarterback. Anything less than not hitting the quarterback at all. If you even breathe on the quarterback, you're in the NFL, you're getting a flag thrown for it. It's gone way out of control. What's up, to Goat Watson? How you doing, sir? Welcome to the stream. He says, what's up, Pigskin and everyone? I'm working overtime. Just wanted to come in and say hi and drop in for any Clemson fan who's attacking Kelly Bryant and wants him to transfer. Shame on you. The Goat Watson, go back and watch the first 10 minutes of this stream when you get a chance. You're probably not going to like what I said. First of all, I haven't heard anybody saying that Kelly Bryant should transfer. I can't imagine anybody that would want Kelly Bryant to be off of the team. But it's a big leap to say, I want Trevor Lawrence to be the starter because he's better than Kelly Bryant. So that all of a sudden now means that Kelly Bryant sucks and we don't want him on the team anymore. No. I mean, you can ask an Alabama fan. Obviously, they want Tua Tagovailoa to be the starting quarterback at Alabama because he's a better quarterback, but they don't want Jalen Hurts to leave. He's still a great player. He still can win you a game if you need him to. Hell, he's won a lot of them. Same with Kelly Bryant. Very similar situation between those two. I mean, they're almost identical. The only real difference is that Tua's in his second year, and Trevor Lawrence is still a true freshman, and Tua didn't come in until the last half of the national championship game. And what we're trying to do is not have that situation have to happen for us, because the situation that Alabama did last year, I mean, the chances of that happening again at any school across the country is 1,000,000 to 1. People think we're just going to hide Trevor Lawrence for the year. And then once we get into the playoffs and we get down by 3 touchdowns in a game, all of a sudden we're just going to throw in Trevor Lawrence. He's going to come in on his horse with his long blonde hair, knight in shining armor, and throw 5 touchdown passes in the fourth quarter and ride off into the sunset with the hottest chick at Clemson. Not going to happen. I love Kelly Bryant. I think he should stay. I also think he should be the second string quarterback. What do I think of good afternoon, Brent Landry. He says, what do I think of LSU's ranking? What is LSU's ranking? I honestly don't know. Let me know what it is, and I'll tell you what I think of it. I'd say that right now they should be in the top 10. I'm sure they probably are. You guys are arguing about where people are positioned in the polls. I just don't care. I'm not saying that you shouldn't care. I don't care. I've said this before. I don't even know what Clemson's ranked right now. I didn't even look at the AP poll this week. Are they still at 3, or did they move back up to 2, or they move back to 4? Hell, I don't even know. I don't care. I really don't care. They could be ranked 15th right now, because it doesn't matter. As long as they keep winning, that's all that matters. What's up, SEC Tiger fan 803? How you doing? Good afternoon, sir, and welcome to the stream. I'm sure if you're here, you're amazing and fantastic. Otherwise, you would not be here. Nick Bro says LSU is ranked 5th. Yeah, so if you go off, and here's the problem with the AP polls. This is the inherent problem with the AP poll in itself. Is LSU gets is ranked number 5th. I'm assuming because they have 2 top 10 wins, but those top 10 teams were ranked by the AP poll way too prematurely, weren't they? LSU might be the second best. Hell, they might be the best team in the country. But how do you know after 3 weeks who the best team in the country is? All you can go off of is the eye test, and that's it. I mean, I've seen LSU play 2 games now. They look really good. They're definitely a top 10 team. Whether you have them at 5 or 7 or 10, who cares? 4. Alabama, I've watched 3 of their games, and I can tell you, they look like the best team in the country, and it's not even close. So there's one ranking I know should be and is, and that's Alabama should be number 1. Whether you have Georgia or Clemson or LSU or Washington or Ohio State or Notre Dame or Stanford, any of these teams could be anywhere in that mix from rankings 2 through 10, and it wouldn't make a difference. It'll all play itself out, though. Clemson Jacob says Miami made Kelly Bryant look like a Heisman winner. Hell, he was the Kelly Bryant in that ACC title game last year against Miami was the MVP of the game. Oregon versus Stanford was an awesome game. I was sitting on the edge of my seat watching that one. I don't know if you heard my sort of overview about that Go 1330. What I said about that game was Oregon looked like the better team than Stanford. And Stanford really got lucky to win that game. I mean, I don't know how Oregon let that happen. Oregon beat them for 3.5 quarters, up and down the field on both sides of the ball. But anyway, something's going on with my stream here. Looks like it's lagging. Is it lagging for anybody? I get so frustrated when that crap happens. Now, last night I was watching the Sports Fury broadcast. They were doing the Monday Night Football game. And they had that same crap happen to them that happened to me a couple times where the audio and the visual don't match up and it looks like a kung fu movie. Looks like there's, doing a voiceover, which is kind of funny actually, but it's not funny if you're making a video because it's screwed up looking. Anyway, I don't know. This is what happens when you deal with technology. Some stuff is out of your control. What's up, Nola? How you doing? Good afternoon, sir. And G. Grace, Kelly Bryant will need to win against Bama. He's a runner thus far than Lawrence. G. Grace, Kelly Bryant's not beating Alabama. And that's the other thing. I must have heard 30 people tell me, well, Kelly Bryant, if it wasn't for Kelly Bryant, we wouldn't have won that Texas A&M game. How in the hell does anybody know that? How can you prove what Trevor Lawrence wouldn't have done when he wasn't in the game? I don't get that. Yes, Kelly Bryant got a couple of touchdowns when he was in there, but how do you know that Trevor Lawrence wouldn't have got a couple of touchdowns when he was in there? I don't understand the train of thought from people that they want to keep Kelly Bryant in as a starter because in their mind he won the Texas A&M game. Well, I haven't looked at the stats, but I can tell you, like, from the amount of plays that Kelly Bryant ran compared to the amount of plays that Trevor Lawrence ran, I bet you Trevor Lawrence had as many points per play as Kelly Bryant did. I don't get what people just make stuff up and say it like it's a fact. Well, they wouldn't have won that game if it wasn't for Kelly Bryant. How the hell do you know? How do you know what? You can't prove a negative. Good afternoon, Jim Harbaugh. Jim Harbaugh in the house. Hey, Jim Harbaugh. I'm sorry about everything I said about you, sir. It's all a lie. I was just trying to get subscribers. What's up, Wrong on Purpose? The artist formerly known as Drake Luke in the house. Good afternoon, sir. Yeah, he says he's sorry that Oregon let me down. Yeah, they did. They let me down. Good thing I didn't bet on that game because I was very close to actually betting on that game, and I'm glad I didn't. And by the way, Oregon should have won that game and should have covered the spread, but they didn't. So. Again, So G. Gray says, I understand Dabo's train of thought. He put Bryant back in. Yeah, again, I love Kelly Bryant. I think that the Kelly Bryant story, especially from last year, was an amazing story. Coming off a national title win, losing to Deshaun Watson, losing like 10 other players to the NFL draft. Everyone's like, this is a rebuild year for Clemson. They're not going to, they'll be lucky to win 10 games. Meanwhile, Kelly Bryant comes in there off the bench, takes us all the way to the playoff. The only game he loses is the game he gets knocked out in the first half in Syracuse, gets his head bashed on the ground like a car wreck. And then he gets blamed somehow for the Alabama loss in the playoffs, which was not his fault at all. But all that is great. Believe me, I fell in love with Kelly Bryant as a Clemson fan too. I'll always love him. I always will have respect for what he did last year. But guess what we didn't have last year? We didn't have Trevor Lawrence last year. We didn't have one of the top passing quarterbacks in all of America last year, did we? No, we didn't. But guess what? We do this year. And so it is what it is. They always preach, Dabo always preaches the best player is going to play. The player that gives us the best chance to win is going to play. Well, finally what we're seeing is them come to the realization that Kelly Bryant is not as good of a quarterback as Trevor Lawrence is. And that's not an indictment on Kelly Bryant. I got news for you. 99% of the quarterbacks in the country aren't as good as Trevor Lawrence is. So that's pretty much all there is to that. Jim Harbaugh, he says, stop hating on him. He's a great coach. Jim Harbaugh, my main problem with you, sir, and we can fix this problem right now, and I'll stop hating on you, Coach Harbaugh, if you just do this one thing for me. First of all, you're overpaid. So I give you my P.O. box. You can send me a couple of $1 million a year to shut me up, because you really don't deserve whatever you're making $9 million a year, whatever it is. I think even at 7, you're probably still overpaid, but I'll take 2, and we'll consider that to be hush money. You won't hear me say anything negative about Jim Harbaugh again for the rest of your tenure there. The other thing that you can do to get me to stop talking bad about you is win the Big Ten. But something tells me that's not going to happen. Not this year, probably not next year either. So by the time we'll get into your 7th or 8th year there at Michigan, you will have banked, what is that? What's 9 times 7? $63 million worth of stolen money that you stole from the taxpayer in the state of Michigan. We will have not won the Big Ten. You probably still will have not beat Ohio State, and we'll have a losing record at Penn State and Michigan State at that point still. And you'll go away. You'll either run back to the NFL or you'll just retire and disappear into obscurity. A very rich man. Jim Harbaugh says he finally has a quarterback. Where's everybody before the season that was saying that Shea Patterson's going to win the Heisman and Michigan's going undefeated and is going to blow out everybody they play because all Jim Harbaugh is needed is a quarterback? Meanwhile, I'm not saying Shea Patterson's not a good quarterback, but he's not playing very well, is he? I mean, what has Shea Patterson done? You guys are a trip. All right, it's time for me to go. I can't believe it's already been an hour on here. It feels like 5 minutes, which is I mean, they say time flies when you're having fun. I always have a lot of fun with you guys on here, no doubt. So, having said that, anybody who's new here, drop a like, subscribe, share, go to a mountaintop and yell it out if you have to. Tattoo it on your forehead. If you tattoo it on your forehead, make sure you tattoo it backwards so when you look in the mirror, it reads correctly. Thank you to all my moderators. You guys are always awesome. Prince 6'1", I'll be getting with you soon, sir. I got a couple questions about our road trip No hurry, nothing like urgent. But I will be giving you a call sometime here this week. All the haters, all the lovers. That's it, I guess. I don't know. Oh, I'll be back on Thursday at 4 p.m. And set your calendar as long as I don't have any unexpected children coming over to the house for a birthday party like I did last weekend. I will plan on doing the the Penn State and Ohio State game live play-by-play and reaction on Saturday night. So go ahead and set your alarm clock for that. Get your beer ready. Get your nachos and cheese, whatever it is you eat on game day. And plan to spend 3.5 hours with Pigskin Pete on Saturday night for that game. I guess that's it. Yeah. Yes, and everybody, tell people about Pigskin Pete. Try to get me to 1,000 before October 15th, and I'll figure out something special to do. I guess that's it. Another great show because of you guys. Have a great day. Pigskin Pete. Checking out.